Hello my lovelies and welcome back to another epic build. Today we're looking at a recreation of Thornewood Castle, which was built in 1908 by Winchester A. Thorne. This building is currently an inn as well as a private residence that is in Lakewood, Washington state. You may recognise the build a little bit. It was also used in Stephen King's mini-series Rose Red, which is where it is also famous for mostly. It has also been used in some other films as well. I have no idea what they are. Anyway, so this build, it's hopefully the most accurate I can get it. That room I just made with the oval in it, that was a part of the Rose Red edition that I found on a floor plan. The original idea was to do Rose Red rather than Thornewood Castle. However, this changed because I've never seen the programme, to be honest, and I had no idea. So I actually removed this room. It gets changed a lot later, but ultimately I used two floor plans. They sort of go well together. One of them actually only consisted of two floors, of which this third floor that it's currently showing actually is the same as the second floor on the second floor plan. So it got a bit confusing. I stuck with three floors because I had done the exterior by the time I actually discovered this other floor plan, but there are changes later on that you can see happen, and that's me trying to sort of merge both floor plans together to try and better able represent the build. So this was a challenging build for me. It's not necessarily as big as some of the others, there's not as much detail as the others, but there's certain things I wanted to do with it that I couldn't. For example, around the roof there's the sort of concrete coloured, I don't know how to call it, but around the roofing basically you've got another colour of these little like bricks that come out, and I wanted to add them just to give it a little bit more detail. It's all about the detail when I'm trying to build these, and that was something I just couldn't figure out, I couldn't do. And so I had lots of challenges like this in that build, like this in this build. Anyway, so currently creating a basement. There was actually two basements on the first floor plan. I've actually removed both of them from the last build. Like I said, I struggled with this build, so I did minimise it a bit more than perhaps I should have, but there was also a lot of, and as per usual, I've lost the word, a lot of compromise that had to be made when making this build. And one of the biggest ones you'll notice is actually currently here, which is with the entranceway. At first it looked like the entrance went up under the archway like a tunnel, and then you went into some stairs and up, and then eventually this had to be changed. It just wasn't going to work. I hated that gap there at the top, and it was just really frustrating in general, to be honest. So we're now adding some of the smaller details, like the window area with the archway, the roofs, and these get changed a few times where I change some of the floor plan and then some of the build and the shape and the sizes. There's a lot of edits that go on here just to try and make it look right. This is the room I was talking about that ends up getting removed because it's a part of the Rose Red floor plan and not Thornewood Castle. It was a difficult decision to make because the original idea was to create the Rose Red house and kind of try and make it all haunted and add all of the not branches, the what's the stuff that climbs up the walls, like the ivy, and make it all look dead and kind of really go for that sort of idea and theme of it. But this didn't work out, and I did change the idea. I am pleased with the outcome, but at the same time I believe there's a lot more that maybe I could have done or changed. And ultimately, I must admit, this build was actually really frustrating for me. So picking the right windows, that was another struggle. The windows in that particular area of the build. They were long windows, but they weren't full length, and they had some extra details. And ultimately, I just had to go with simpler. Sometimes going with something simpler rather than overcomplicating it makes it a lot better. So there we go again with the hedging in that area. Not entirely sure what it was at this point, but that does get fixed. Luckily, that really does get fixed. Yeah, guys, I am having trouble talking. I have actually recorded this like 3 times already, and every time I have stumbled. Fingers crossed, this is the last time. So I added a little bit extra to the chimneys. It had the big base on the chimneys, and then it also goes up into the smaller chimneys. So I added them just to, like I said, it's all about the details, but ultimately the details in this, they were there, but they also weren't necessarily creatable in The Sims. So I hope you guys enjoyed the little cinematic at the beginning. I've been really trying to work out the tab key for recording. Still can't control the rotation. So that's something hopefully I can develop on with my showcase builds. But I'm getting there. So that was, honestly, I've watched it so many times and I've enjoyed it. So this part here is a part of the, not to say a part of, it is a very, I don't know what the word is, guys. I'm just losing it today. This is the secret garden. So when starting that again, this is the secret garden. It's actually at the front of the build, which I realised later on. I changed the fountain into a pool with a build like this. It was just nice to add a pool. I saw this from one direction only to start off with, which was from the pool facing towards the stairs. I tried to add in those little details again as this build went. Didn't always work out. Quite often didn't work out. It's probably a better recorrection. I don't know if I'm even saying the right words today, guys. So I added the extra just to make it all pretty and more like a garden. Then we went more into the detail of the build. I did go to and from the build a few times, in all honesty. Went back to things, tried to recreate things I weren't happy with, and then probably changed them again another 100 times. And eventually we got images that I was happy with. This extra bit here that was just added, this does lead all the way around to the other side, as you can see. This actually isn't in the build as far as I'm aware, because this area actually leads down to a part of the inn and kitchen. So I've created the hedge and the garden going all the way around it. However, the build actually consists of 3 buildings, and this is just the main one of the castle, so that there is an added extra just to bring it all together nicely. This was my favourite part, to be honest. I absolutely love recreating the fountain. It was difficult to start with. I didn't know what sort of items to use to represent the people going around it. Eventually I used the little ballerina gal, and at least that's what I call her, although she looks not necessarily even a dancer, but I used this little girl statue anyway. And like, it is my favourite part. It's like the one bit that I really feel like I got right, and that's quite a common theme with this, that it was so hesitant about this build in so many areas, and I just kind of went with it. There's a lot of bits that I've kind of just gone off to add to and change it because it just didn't seem right as a Sims build or even as a recreation. So this is the exterior and me going crazy with the gardens, all completely just of my own ideas and things. It also gets changed again a bit later. I like gardens. This was my little break from the rest of it. You look at the build and you kind of think, well, there's not that much to it, and I don't blame you. There really isn't that much to it, but I did struggle with this build, as I've said so many times, that coming back to maybe doing a bit of the outside actually cheered me up a bit from the frustration that I was finding. So now we're going on to the interior. The downstairs, there's quite a few compromises again. Unfortunately, that is a common theme here. I've recreated as much as I possibly can. I've stuck with it mostly on the first floor, ultimately with the second floor and the third floor, which I don't even know is actually there. So if somebody knows, that would be nice to know whether it actually has a third floor or not, but ultimately you can see the changes, and yeah, it'll be nice to know whether I got it right or not. I've had a couple of people come back to me on Facebook and say that it looks good. So thank you. I really needed that with this build. I really, really do appreciate it. So this is the easiest room that I could recreate, as well as the hall. There were several pictures available, and to be honest, I haven't put them up because I was a bit silly. I normally save them as I go along, and I completely forgot. Like, I've been a bit dippy for what I usually am when building. It's been a stressful week, and this was how I was trying to relax, and it wasn't actually working, unfortunately. So also with the hall, it goes through a lot of changes, as well as a lot of the rest of the build. As I progressed through looking through more images, the outside gets changed again, as you can see, and the interior gets changed, and then this area that kind of sticks out there, it actually says it's a terrace. I was about to say something else then that wouldn't have been good, so I actually finally added that in, and I was finally confident that actually I finally got this bit right, guys. So from this point, I was pretty satisfied with the exterior. There's a few bits that do get changed still, I believe, but that's more to do with sizing than what's actually there as it looks. So now we've moving things along. Like I said, it's more with the size and the quantity of how that room compares in the pictures to what it compares like in the game. Oh, why do I have done that several times in several different videos, guys. I am off on one today. I am confused, and this build has just completely just baffled me from the beginning. Anyway, before I go too off on one, I forgot what I was saying, so that's probably a good thing. That is definitely a good thing. I did change, as you noticed, making changes to the build. This was actually from the second floor plan. Yay, goodbye. Sorry, that was satisfying. Like I said, I was getting so stressed with this one. No, not everything is easy to recreate, and this is the first one I've struggled with. But guys, if you struggle with something, it doesn't matter. It honestly, just keep trying, just persist, because even if you're not completely happy with what the end result, it's good to finish things. It's good for your confidence, and it's good for everything. And ultimately, because you did struggle, you feel so much better about it. So guys, don't give up on yourselves, please. Just don't. It's not worth it. I mean, go away, come back to things, and you know what, even if it takes you months to go back to a build and finish it, that's okay. It really is okay. This build took me like 2 weeks, I believe, just because it was being a pain. We weren't agreeing on so many things. So at this point, this is where the I get a little bit more creative. We do have the library here. This is where the library is meant to go. Afterwards, with the kitchen and other areas, it was getting more difficult to find pictures. And as I said, I haven't actually watched the Rose Red episodes or mini-series. So, I mean, I could have. I couldn't find it. I did try. So I could have gone and then used the interior of that. But at the same time, the interior has probably changed a lot for it being a fictional film or program, TV series. I keep calling it a film, guys, and I do apologise. So the rest of it here is pretty much of my own creation. This room is called the flower room. The flower room. I need to talk slowly and to breathe. So the flower room that is on the floor plan. So I thought this is a great place to just put some flower arranging. This was meant to be 2 rooms, one that cuts off at the stairs, so I added the smaller wall, the half wall, to create that divide without making it so small that it looked a bit silly. I stuck with the basics with the kitchen. It's a lot bigger than I necessarily probably should have made it. I reckon it's actually quite a bit smaller compared to what it is in the game. In the game. You know what, guys? I'm settled by saying in the game because that's me referring to The Sims, or at least that's what I'm going to tell myself. So from here on out, it's all basically just off the top of my head. Like I said, this build it was a crazy one. I've enjoyed it. It's been a bumpy ride. So we've created this area sort of moving more into utilities. So I added in the laundry, and also in this other area here, it says it's a porch, like a kitchen porch. I'm not entirely sure what that entails. So I created it sort of like an outside area with the brick and stuff, almost like a glorified shed, and perfect place for woodworking with my usual debug items there, just to give it a little extra. There are lots of bathrooms, and luckily most of these bathrooms are actually on the floor plan. Some of them have sort of been added in because the rooms were different sizes to what they look like. That probably makes no sense. It barely makes sense to me. I'm just gonna smile and wave. Smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave. That's if you know Madagascar. If not, go watch Madagascar. So here, yet again, going back to the outside, in all honesty, all of this decoration is not shown in any pictures anywhere. I added the ivy. I love it, to be honest. It gave the house a little bit more character. And at this point, I did start just getting my creativity out there with it. I was doing what I could to make the build look like what it's meant to, and at the same time, I did sway from what it should be like quite a bit, especially in some of the little details. So from here, it's all basically just deciding how many bedrooms I could put in, how many was too much. So we've added a few rooms that are different. This one actually leads into a little office, which I love this idea. It leads into a little office, and then it goes into more of a recreational room. As all 3 of these link together, all 3 of these rooms, I didn't know what to do at first. The first room was, I believe, it's a parlour, so this does represent it well, and then it goes into the office and then into a bedroom. But considering I had a 3rd floor, didn't know whether it's meant to or not. I'm guessing it does. It looks right from the exterior, so I'm going to say it should. So then I added this other area and made it a little bit more recreational rather than a bedroom. There are so many bedrooms to be put in here. I done my usual and added a few extra bits because we don't need hundreds of bedrooms for The Sims. I used a bit more colour in here, where everything else is quite plain and tame. You've got the greens and the blues and the reds, trying to make it fit in more with the style of the build itself, so that Gothic Tudor style. And this is sort of like a big turning point where I sort of decide that there are so many rooms, we don't need all of them as bedrooms, so let's just go for it. A little alcove there, I absolutely love, with the curtains going across. I've done that in a couple of the rooms. It's one of my favourite features of this build. It makes it stand out, but at the same time, it was difficult to get the curtains to just go around those windows, so it worked well. It really is something that makes this build stand out. It's something I would definitely add to other ones. So just adding in a lot of bathrooms, always fun. Bathrooms, bathrooms, bathrooms. If I had this many bathrooms in my house, I would probably like order them. So I'd done them all every day they were used. because that's the sort of weird person I am. I mean, if you've got to clean them, you might as well use them. Let's be honest. If I had a house this big, I wouldn't be cleaning my own bathrooms. So this is another bedroom. This is actually one of the favourite guys. Like I said, apologise. I don't know what I'm saying today. My brain is working so fast and the rest of me's not following. So that's actually one of the best bedrooms and one of my favourite bedrooms. Purely because there's a lot more going on in it. I've given it a little bit of personality by putting the easel in it as well. So I'm adding children's rooms. There's quite a few children's rooms in here. Kind of, with this one especially, I tried to stick with quite a gender or neutral theme. It kind of ended up looking a little bit more girly than anything. Not necessarily my plan. And this happens with quite a few of the bedrooms. They get a little bit brighter and cheerier, especially the children's rooms. But at the same time, you probably can tell that there's a little bit of whether they're for a boy or for a girl. And for me, I do try to stay away from that, but sometimes I'm just like, oh, but I want this set in here, and it just happens. This room, I didn't know what to do with it. I really did not know what to do, so eventually I decided. And so it's just like a little dance room, guys. You've got plenty of space to change this and edit it, take it out, add another bedroom if you want. Personally, bedrooms and big builds, they get very repetitive. And I love this room. I love the way the windows sit, and I love the way they look on the outside as well. That is another thing that really I managed to actually recreate in this that came out really well. And I was surprised at how well it came out, to be honest. So this room, I've added like a little stylist area. This was actually on the floor plan, said that it was a closet. So I kind of went along with that idea, but I changed it into, basically it's a closet, a big closet, but then we've got the rest of the stuff to make it more of a stylist area. So this area is kind of transformed into, I say recreational, but sort of like a health and well-being area. So we've got the gym, the sauna, and then we've got the massage stations as well. Taking it into slightly more modern build than I would have liked to start with, but if you've seen more than one video, you may notice that happens quite a lot in my builds, especially with the interior. The interior is definitely something that I don't necessarily do well with. So this room, as you see, it was split into two. It got changed. Remembered to add some pictures everywhere because I keep forgetting. There's certain things people forget on builds, and with mine it's definitely the pictures that are hanging up, and also mailboxes. Mailboxes are the bane of my existence some days. So that room, as I've been chatting away, distracting myself and everybody else, was a parlour. It was taken from two rooms and made into one to make it bigger, so we had both a sitting area as well as the extra area with the table, and I also added the tea as well, so the tea maker. Just, if, as I've said many times, that this is just gives Sims a reason to go in there. If we're going to have a parlour, make it more into a tea room and extend it from there. This build, guys, this room, what is wrong with me? Really enjoyed this room. It links to the office. This is in the floor plan, but it doesn't have the archways. It's more concealed than what you can see here. I've changed a lot of the rooms in this floor just to give it something a little bit different. The room across from this I actually changed so it's two rooms split, as you can see here. So one sort of turned into a small nursery that then leads off into the parents' room. This is something I've seen quite often in the builds that I've recreated, and I love the idea. You've probably heard me say it a million times by now, but this is something that I really do like. So I'd hope, if I've got the space, it's definitely something you will see added quite often. So as we go on, this room was basically all designed out of the cats and dogs expansion pack. I kind of just changed it a bit. I added some of the cats and dogs figures earlier, so I thought if we've got it, let's just make a room and dedicate it to this pack. And I kind of, to me, it looks kind of like a grandma room. No offense to anybody, but with the patches on it, and I thought add the animals, so we've kind of got like a crazy cat lady room as well. As I've said, this area actually turns into completely kids' rooms, kid friendly, a little bit over the top. But as I've said, I mean, I really have tried to make the bedrooms gender neutral, but at the same time, it kind of differs from that. As you can see, we started with flowers here, and then we ended up changing the colour. There's quite a lot of room changes where I could have added an extra bathroom. I was like, no, let's just extend this room a bit. Let's just give it a little bit more space. I've tried to put, I don't know why, for this build, if I've got a single bed, it's basically 2 single beds together. That's happened more often than not. So after doing the 2 bedrooms, I've added like a little play area in, mostly so I could fit in the castle or one of the dolls' houses. And this cupboard, there's a few cupboards on this floor, and I changed this one into a toddler bathroom because I thought it was a cute idea. I was at one of those frustrated stages in this build, and so I just done that. I was like, yeah, let's just change this cupboard into a toddler bathroom. As you see, I've actually added an adult bedroom in with all the children's stuff. This was sort of like with the idea that maybe they have a nanny and then they're close by. I was like, let's add an adult room. There's only so many kids the Sims need. I mean, there's probably enough for 8 children to live here, and if you don't have mods, you're only going to have 8 people or Sims. So I added a room for a nanny. I thought, yeah, that's quite cute, you know. So yet again, with the bathrooms, it's the last thing I done on each floor of this build. It's got a lot of bathrooms, not a bad thing. And that is it, guys. So thank you. Don't forget to like, subscribe. This video has been a little bit all over the place. It was a very bumpy ride with this build. Really appreciate you joining me again. I really, really appreciate you liking, commenting, and everything. Thank you so much, and enjoy your day.